And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I'm Michael DeLon, and today I am talking with somebody who's almost as vibrant as I am. You're really going to love this. I'm talking with Beth Nydick. Beth, thanks for squeezing me into your schedule today and being with me today.
Oh, Michael, I love being with you, of course.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time. Beth, for those of you who are listening and watching, Beth is she's a media relations expert, and she's an author who's been featured on Oprah, Dr. Oz, Forbes, and many other really high-profile media channels. She's also a wife. She's a foster mom, so we have that in common. She's also a coach to business owners who want to gain the attention of the media to enhance their credibility and their profits. And that is so intriguing to me, Beth, because as you know, our company, I mean, we are all about establishing credibility and marketing it. And when you and I connected, it was just like two peas in a pod going, this is awesome because you do something that I don't do. But most of my clients say, how can I get on media? Well, you're going to find out listening to Beth. So Beth, why don't you start us off, give us a little bit of background about what you've done in the past and how you got featured on all those crazy media outlets. And what are you doing? How'd you get here?
Totally. So I'll give you like the story. So I was living in Hoboken, New Jersey, which is, like a little town right outside New York City. And I was literally sitting behind a guy who had MTV on his t-shirt.
Okay.
And I was doing one of these, I'm cute. I'm in my late 20s, mid 20s. And I was like, listen, and eventually I started talking to him. He actually worked in HR and I got myself an interview.
Oh, seriously?
Just from that interaction. So listening to my environment, like that's how I got it. And I worked there for a couple of years and really bit the bug. But I was like a child actor. I've always been in that TV. And when I was little, before I went to college, if you asked me what I wanted to do, I wanted to be a producer.
Okay.
So it was a lifelong dream to actually work behind the camera. And now I teach people how to work in front of the camera. But my whole life has been those kind of episodes. In college, I actually interned for Jay Leno himself.
Oh, seriously?
At the Tonight Show. I did.
No way.
Again, I was at the Comedy Store in LA.
Uh-huh.
My girlfriend and I probably was 19, 20 at that time. He's making fun of us because we're young in the audience. And after the show, he's like, hey, what do you want to do? And I literally, I had lots of guts back then. I still do. And I was like, I'm going to work for you. I went to his office the next day and they hired me as an intern for that summer.
No way.
It's just opening your mouth and asking for what you want. It is, so I worked at MTV. I worked at Fox News before it was Fox News, when it was just a cable station.
You're dating yourself.
TV. I know. I've been in TV for a long time. And then I had kids and then I started a food blog because I didn't want to work the 16 hours a day that you work when you work in TV production. But TV kept calling me. About 4 or 5 years in, Dr. Oz kept calling. I became a Dr. Oz blogger for a while and really understood how you could connect your online business to TV and your online business to podcasts like this and to magazines and to credibility. So what I've done over the last few years is taken all of that expertise and poured it into my clients to be able to not only earn them media, but make sure their business is ready for it and they can leverage it for, like you said, credibility, clients, and cash.
Oh, I love that. The 3 C's: credibility, clients, and cash. Sure. I don't know how much you know about me and my family, but my son was a youth pastor for a while. I've preached at youth group, and having 3 things and all start with the same letter, that alliteration, it's in my blood. So credibility, clients, and cash. I love that. So talk to us a little bit about, all right. So first of all, the importance of credibility. So I went to your website. I poked around. I went to like your About Us page or whatever, and it is nothing, Beth, but filled page after page of just media that you've been on. And I went, wow. And that is the response that people have to somebody who's credible, who's been featured in the media. Talk about that, of how that resonates with a prospect and helps them choose you to go, wow, you really are the guru, right?
Well, it's having those credibility markers and being in the space of what we're doing with authors and with experts. Think about it this way, Mike. So if you and I did the same thing and a client goes to your website versus comes to my website and I have all the logos, they'll probably end up being with me because of this fact. All of those logos give them a credibility level, right? they see you as different level of being a higher level of credibility, because places like, so say you were on NBC News. NBC News has already vetted you.
Yes.
They've done the background check. They've seen who you are. They made, so the credibility that a client gives NBC is then transferred onto who you are and what your services are. No matter if that makes a difference or not, because most people don't understand what a producer does or what a podcast host does. You know, when I have my own podcast, and sometimes I only look at their page for 2 seconds. And I'm like, oh, they're fine. I don't do that deep dive, but the general public believes and feels that, like, if I'm in Oprah looked at my website, and she did not look at my website.
That's right. That's right. So, but it goes back to, I mean, I'm dating myself now, back to the good housekeeping seal of approval, right?
Exactly.
They have vetted you. They have said you are a trustworthy source of information. And when you have that, especially the big ones, you know, as I would say, the ABCs, NBCs, Foxes, the Oprahs, the Dr. Oz's, the Dr. I mean, you put those on your site and people are going like, okay, wow. If they trust her, maybe I can.
Right, because being on those national TV shows, you need to have a certain expertise behind you. I can't tell you how many times I'll have a discovery call, or somebody will DM me on Instagram. How can you get me on Good Morning America? My first question is always, have you been on your local news?
Okay. Like,
I literally started at my high school. My high school has like a multi-million-dollar TV station.
Oh, okay.
But that's where I started doing TV. Like, that's where I practice, because you need to be able to learn how to talk in sound bites, how to present your message without selling your product. Like, there's a lot that goes into actually being on TV before you even get there.
Okay, right there. And that's something I wanted to dive into, because there's a difference. And you really brought that to my mind when we first talked, is we are all in marketing. We're all about your message and trying to do, draw people. What's the customer, what's keeping them up at night and all that. That's the wrong message to take to media, right?
That's your marketing message. There's your marketing message and your media message. And those two things are actually very, very different. I kind of put it like this. My messaging out there, right, is I take you from undiscovered to unforgettable. But what my media message is, I know, isn't that?
I love it. they both two U's again, unforgettable.
Oh, yeah, I like it, right.
I love it.
We all know those tricks and the scarcity, and we use all those tricks. But my media message, and if you see me on media talking about what I do, I'm talking about how to create opportunities for your success. That's my message. So I say to my clients, I actually did an interview yesterday with a very, very high-powered PR person, and I asked her that question, and she gave me her marketing message. I was like, so it's really differentiating yourself. Like, what's your book about? That's awesome, but what's the underlining message? What's that feeling? What's that thing that you want people to take away from it? Because if they don't remember your name, they don't remember the title of their book, they're going to remember how you make them feel. And when you show up on your local news, because we're going to be starting, right? We're going to show up on our local news, and how you make somebody feel by watching you for 2.3 minutes, that's how you get people to start following you.
That's right. Oh, and that is so key. And I've seen so many people, business owners, get on their local media, which is great, morning show or whatever on TV.
Yeah.
And they're stiff. And they're, hello, Beth. Nice. It's like, oh, stop it.
It's like, oh, God.
Yeah. I've got a dear friend of mine who was on TV for about 7 years. He's an auto repair shop, right? Mark the car guy. He's just himself. He was in his outfit that he works on cars in. He was there, but he's genuine. And people flocked to his business. And years later, right? He hadn't been on TV for years, and people still come up to him. Hey, I saw you on TV the other day. He's like, great.
Mike the car guy, right? You need to have that persona that's actually you. Because when people in our business, no matter if you're an online expert or you have a book or what you have in this business, once you stop trying to be you, and you're actually yourself, and you let go of the hustle and you let go of all those things, what happens to your business? You explode. That's what happens. Like,
it is not so crazy. You are so right. Yeah. When you finally are yourself and you give it all up to go, you know what, if you don't like me, but most people love you when you're yourself, because you're genuine. And you need to take that to media, to podcast interviews, to TV. I'm sure when the spotlights come on and that red light on that camera comes on or whatever, people freeze.
Oh, please. I want to throw up every time I do something. Like I do. The 5 minutes before, I'm texting my friends. I'm telling my husband I'm going to throw up, figuring out a way to get out of it. But then once that red light goes on, I'm on. and then I'm thriving. So
Yeah.
those things are normal. And you talk to anybody. I have a friend who did a rock and roll TV show, and she would interview like Slash, like these high end people that perform in front of hundreds of thousands of people, and they would come off after the interview and they'd be like, "Did I do okay?" So for me, Oprah does get nervous. That Meghan Markle interview she did, like she was nervous. If you looked at her social, she was talking about being nervous. Like that's part of it. So, letting go of all those persona and the things that we're supposed to do when you just be you. And when I do TV or I do podcasts like this, like when people tell me they're nervous, the audience like leans in more. They like it when you're actually vulnerable, honest. This stuff that we do, this entrepreneur world that we're in, is really, really hard. And I think that more people need to talk about how hard it is and how we need to band together to do it together, because that does make it easier.
It does. Yeah. I remember John Maxwell, I was listening to him years and years ago, and he was talking about, he was at a pastor's conference. He was the last speaker, and, everybody was knocking it out of the park, all these speakers. And he was talking to one of the other speakers, and they said, the audience is kind of getting depressed because everybody is knocking it out of the park, but they're not, right? And John said, you know what? And he threw away his message and went on stage, and in about 15 minutes wrote out the 10 biggest mistakes he ever made. And that was his talk. And that resonated with everybody because everybody messes up. It's real.
It's just real. Right.
Yeah.
And being real in media is the place, and being real and being on media. Like if you want to be an actor, go be an actor. If you want to be yourself and have people fall in love with you, be yourself. I wish it was easier for people to do that. I really do.
So,
and with guidance, you can.
Well, with guidance, and that's something that you offer, which I want to get to. But what you're talking about right here is being yourself. And too many times we look at our competition, let's say, and they're on media. They've been featured in Fox or Forbes or whatever. And you're like, well, why can't I? Why are they always? And instead of saying, you know what, I'm going to take a step. I'm going to try. I might fail. Well, you don't fail if you try. And it's not that you'd call one media in your right. You probably call 20 of them, and somebody's going to pick it up, probably, right? Talk to us about that mental anguish of going, I'm scared, and letting that stop you, because obviously you didn't. If you went up to Jay Leno and said, I'm going to work for you. Talk about that mental jump that we can take and how really simple it can be.
It's actually so simple, and this is all it takes. If you're in action, your brain doesn't have the room to tell you to stop.
Okay. I'm processing.
So if you're writing a pitch, or you're having a conversation, and you're in action, meaning doing something to move the needle for your business further, you don't have time for that imposter syndrome to come up and all that stuff to come up. I'm not a mantra person, and I don't meditate, and that's not who I am. But when I'm doing something and that little bird comes in, I'm like, that's not serving me. Stop. And I come back to what I'm doing. Or, I'm a very big, be brave. Like, let's figure it out. But it's just taking one step in front of another. But when you said about if you document your failure, your audience will be more in on you. So it doesn't really matter if you're going to win or lose. If you win, they'll be so happy for you. If they lose, guess what? They're going to hold you up and be happy for you that you're sharing that part of it. So documenting that journey, but being in action and taking that step. The one thing I always tell everybody is start talking your dream. If you want to be on the local news, start telling everybody, because guess what? Somebody's going to pop up that knows somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody, and they're going to help you make that happen.
And that's a great point. It's, again, going back to the old adage, right? It's not what you know, it's who you know. Talk to us, because you shared a story about getting on media one time or something, and you wanted to be on a certain station or something, and you just started putting it out to your friends, and somebody knew somebody somewhere, and it worked. So talk about that, because too many times we're like, well, I've got to call the news station, and they've got 17 operators who are gatekeepers, and I'll never get them. And it's going to talk to us about that. How could somebody get on? Let's talk local TV.
Okay. Local TV is actually the easiest right now. Like if you're listening to this, go call your local TV station, because of two things. Number one, they've had to let people go. They've had to, right, that the advertising dollars aren't there, because everything is run by the advertising dollars. And so they have less people on their staff. So if you can come to the producer or the anchor or whoever you're going to connect with, I say producer because they actually make the decisions. But if you can connect with that producer, with a written out segment. I'm going to come on and talk about this. These are the 3 things we're going to talk about. I'm going to show this product, like depending on what your expertise is. You come to them with a fully fledged idea that all they need to do is read it and then ask, because they're not actually the last decision maker. They can go then fight for you to the executive producer and get you on air. But there isn't that such a deep separation, and there aren't that many gatekeepers on your local TV station. And number 2 is that producer knows everybody at every other local station around you.
Brilliant right there. So a good referral strategy, right? And if you do well on that one and build the relationship, I imagine, I may be wrong, you can correct, even if I went there and I just totally messed it up, I was stumbled because I was so scared. If I had the relationship and the producer or executive producer like me, they might actually have me back on.
Well, right. It depends how bad you do. And
right.
I bet that you screwing up is not as bad as you think it is, because we always think that. I've had different segments and I was like, that's the worst segment I ever done. And they were like, that's the best segment you've ever given us. And I'm like, okay, what you think matters here. But yeah, that's the referral system. And if you live in a smaller area, somebody knows that person, so creating that personal relationship. When you're connecting with the media, yes, it's a win-win. You're giving them content, they're putting you on, but you're also making a friend. I say it's like the good part of high school. You get to just make friends and you get to have something in common, because that producer is going to be in on your topic, because that's why they're going to want you on. Their audience wants your information, right? So you're not really selling to the people, you're selling to the audience, but you need to make sure that that audience is the audience for what you want. If you're a meditation and like a woo-woo person and you want to be on your local news station, great, but you got to find out when they do those segments so that when that audience is watching, versus a doctor coming on talking about COVID, it's going to be 24/7.
Right. No, and that's really good, because you've got to understand they're going to bring you on not because you're an expert at meditation. They're going to bring you on because their audience has interest in that. Because if their audience is, if you're an expert in meditation and you're trying to get on Fox Business News, that's going to be a challenge, right? Because it's not a good fit. Probably.
Well, unless you can connect how you can make more money in the market by meditating. You can make more money at business by, like, you have to connect it back to the audience that's watching the show, because you have to follow the money. Advertisers are on their show because that audience watches those advertisers. So if what you're talking about can complement what's going on, that's really where the magic happens. And it's you want an easy yes. They're not going to work hard, because most small town producers do get 1,000 emails a day. So imagine how in New York or in LA or Dallas, how they get thousands and thousands a day. I'm going to date myself again. I did work in TV right as email was starting. I know I'm older than I'm older than I look. But like, I used to get 300 emails a day 20 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
So that's got to, it's an immense amount of emails that they get a day, that bigger producers get a day. So that's why the follow-up matters. That's why knowing somebody matters. That's why going onto social media, like, find out who your local lifestyle producer is, and then go, I call it media dating. You go onto social, you comment on their stuff, don't do this, I have a pit bull and you have a pit bull. Let's be friends. No. We're not doing that. That's middle school, right? We're talking about high school and college, making friends.
Yep.
So finding that commonality, and it could be a mom, it could be mustaches, it could be foster parents, whatever it is, but finding that place, because that person needs to be in your circle for a while. It's not a one and done. Unless that's what you want. And if you're working this hard to make that happen, that's not what you want.
Right. Yeah. And that's, gosh, so good, because that strategy, what you just talked about to get on media, is a very similar strategy that we teach our clients about gaining more clients in referral partners and things, because it shouldn't be a one and done. That's not dating. That's hooking up, right? We don't want to do that.
That's Tinder. Right.
I'm sorry. That is, we want a relationship that's going to actually last longer than that interview, because our interview on TV is on Tuesday morning. I want that producer to be thinking about me, so that in a month, when his buddy says, hey, I need somebody to talk about this, he's like, you know what? We had Beth on. She was really good. You should connect with her. Oh, now what's happening, right? Because it's a relationship. Or they'll go to their Facebook page and go, look, it's right here. There you go.
Right. And they'll keep a lot of producers will keep like an expert Excel sheet. And when they're looking for that, they're looking for their happiness coach. They're looking, they'll go down the Excel sheet and do it that way. But I'm friendly with some national TV show producers. And what I do, because I'm not at that place yet, right? My goal for this year is to get on Good Morning America. Got to find a place for me there. So what I do in the meantime, I ask them what they're working on. I send them guests all the time. They come to me for experts like, hey, do you know they were looking for a mom that made masks, right when last summer when Corona was working. 3 women in my town, I referred her and they were on Good Morning America. So that my friend is grateful that I helped her out. So then when I said to her, hey, can you look at this pitch? Hey, do you know somebody at CNN? Hey, guess what? She helped me.
Yes.
Because it's a relationship. It's a friendship. And I don't want people to think that we're doing this with 50 people. I say it this way. Try to connect with 5 people a quarter. So first quarter, I connect with 5 people. 2 people I really made a relationship with. So now it's second quarter. So now I'm continuing that relationship with 7 people. By the end of the year, I should have 6 to 8 to 10 people that I have a relationship with. And that's really enough for my next year. As long as I've strategically placed them in different areas. So I have my TV people, my podcast people, my online people. And then I'm not going crazy trying to meet new people all the time. I can cultivate those relationships for years and years because those people move around. And once they move, like I have a friend that moved out of Forbes into doing something else. And I was like, can you just give me somebody else at Forbes that I can create that relationship with? So when I have clients or people that I want to get onto Forbes, I can do that. And she was like, of course, because I've added value to her life.
Yeah. And that is so key. I was in BNI years and years ago, right? And givers gain is their whole philosophy. That's exactly what you're talking about. And when that producer on Good Morning America they're always hearing from you. You're a resource to them. You're top of mind. Of course, the day's going to come to go, it's Beth's turn, right? This is spot on for Beth. And you're going to get the call and you're going to go, yes. And that was like one of those, it's like Willie Nelson's overnight success, right? He's like, he worked in honky tonks for 15 years and then he was an overnight success. Same thing. And I loved how you used the word that I use all the time, strategic. So I'm thinking here, Beth, let's give our listeners one really practical step. And the one that I'm thinking of in my mind is create a spreadsheet and put all of your media stations that you want on and start there. Mm-hmm. And then what do? You go to the website to get their information and then Facebook. What would you do if I had 7 media channels in my area and I've got the spreadsheet? What are the things I need to fill out?
Okay, so let's use Drew Barrymore because I am pitching her this week, so we'll see what happens.
Okay.
So the Drew Barrymore show, I go to Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter, and I put in the Drew Barrymore show. Not so much Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn more. The Drew Barrymore show, and it shows me who the producers are. It shows me who the it gives you the information. You go to the drewbarrymore.show.com. Guess what? All the producers all the information is there. And then you do a little sleuthing. Then you go to their Instagram. Then you go to their Facebook. It's not hard to find that information, right? But I would say when you're starting, actually pick up the phone and call the local station. Call the national, like if you're in New York, call NBC News and ask for the nightly news and the everyday news shows. That's a great place to start. Because I think with your clients, with the people that are listening, that's a great place to start for them. It's like, this is what I want them to do. Everybody else listening, pick up your phone, literally find the NBC, like any station that's in your area and call. Hi, my name is Beth Nydick. I'm a local resident and I'm really interested in talking to your lifestyle producer. Guess what? The 20-something person behind that's answering the phone, because remember, that's like an entry-level job.
Yep.
Most of the time. Sometimes it's a veteran, but that person is the gatekeeper. But they're like, first of all, they're so excited you called because nobody ever calls. And second, they want to help you. That's their job. So, and they might ask you questions like, what are you looking for? Why that person? Because you might be wrong. It might be the person who does the money, like, depending on how that station actually works. Get their phone number, ask for it. They're like, I'm going to transfer you. Can I have the phone number first? Don't let them transfer you because you want that direct number. Can I get their email? Get as much information that you can from her or him, because they're going to want to give that to you. And then follow up. Hi, I just spoke to whatever that person's name was. A little credibility. Oh, this person's called. She might know, or he might know this person. Tell them your idea. And I always say it this way when you're talking to people, write it down. Like if you actually get somebody on the phone, hi, my name is Beth. I'm a media consultant. I'm looking to do an article on why 20% of businesses fail in the first year. And then stop talking. Give them that one-liner like practical steps. Give them that one-liner, that thing that's going to make them earn the step in. I always like statistics because people's news like statistics. And then they're going to ask you a question. Oh, that's really interesting. Tell me more. And then have written down 3 or 4 more bullets. But you really want to just give them the highlights to get them interested. They'll probably say, okay, email this to me. Literally email it to them. And then 2 days later, I want you to follow up. 3 days later, I want you to follow up. 3 days later, I want you to follow up. And follow up can mean a phone call. Hey, it's Beth. I sent you that email. Just want to make sure that you got it. And then another email, and then the email too. Hey, and we spoke on Monday. I'm really interested in working on this project with you. Let me know your thoughts. You know, if you don't get a response in 3 follow-ups, move on. It's not because they don't like you. It's because either it doesn't work for them. It doesn't work for them right now. But I want you to think of another idea and do the whole thing again in a week from now. Sorry, in a week from that last phone call. So that you're in their inbox or their voicemail every week for the next 2 months.
Okay.
And see what kind of response you get. And if you get no response in 2 months, move on. If you get a response, cultivate that and see if you can create that relationship for them. And then do that with 3 to 5 more people. It's really as simple as that.
And that's brilliant. So I hope if you listen to that, go back and re-listen to the podcast, write it down, and then do it. Take action. And that's one thing I've learned about Beth is she's an action taker. She's
got to be an action taker.
Not feared,
you have to.
Well, you do. And the barriers that we build in our brain, in our mind, they're really molehills. They're not mountains in reality. We make them mountains. Pick up the phone. I used to work for a guy who was my manager at Family Life, and he'd say, because I'd hide behind emails, right? And he said, you see that black thing on your desk? It's called a phone. Use it. And I love that, Beth. Pick up the phone. They're not going to bite you. They're not going to be mad. It's their job, right? And if you bring value to the table, you're there to help them win. And the more little research you do, they're going to say, all right, this one's going to be a little easier than most. That's great.
Right. If you can have some sort of, and then you have some sort of information on them, but also I think about it this way. So I live in Jersey. It's a little far from you guys, but I think about this. The producers of all the shows that are shot in any major city on the East Coast are in their 1-bedroom apartments, or they've moved back with their parents across the country, right? Like think about, so they're in their childhood bedroom at a tiny little desk, probably producing their TV show.
That's crazy.
Right? Like you have to think about what they're actually going. And they're like, thank God Michael emailed me. He's going to fill my, there's this spot, because they're not just filling one spot a day, right? They're not just filling 3 minutes a day. They got to fill they're part of filling a whole show. And if you do a good job, guess what? It makes them look good. Yeah. And then they'll refer you. And then it moves like that. It's all in media and in sales. It's all about relationships.
It is. That's awesome. All right. We could talk forever. I wish we could. We'll have to come back. Talk to us a couple of things. So I usually ask, what's one easy step? We just gave them 2. 1, build your little spreadsheet. And 2, pick up the phone and call your local media. Do it today, because as Beth said, I won't say desperate, but they're in need of you.
They need you. But I want to just make one caveat. If you're not ready for your local news, which is fine, you're still working on yourself, your church's newsletter, your high school TV station, your local radio station, somebody that has a big following, a huge realtor in your area, adding you to their newsletter, that's still publicity. I don't want to think you just need to be on TV, podcasts, and magazines. Brilliant. Any place that people that don't know you can find out about you, that's media and that's publicity too.
That's great. And always remember that everybody you touch has a circle of influence. So you might go to that realtor, that's brilliant, be in their newsletter, and that TV producer might know that realtor, get there and go, wow, there you go. Right. It's relationships.
Right. But it's not even the TV producer. It's like, oh, I could use let's go back to the mindset person. Oh, I could really use a mindset coach. And then I get my email from Sherry, who's my local realtor. Sherry likes this mindset coach. I know Sherry's a really smart lady, so I'm going to trust her. There's the credibility. Yeah. She's already vetted me, so I know that I can trust her, and I'm going to go call you, and that's where the clients and cash come in.
That's great. That is so powerful. I mean, that's nugget gold there. All right,
and realtors love that. They love it.
They do, because they're struggling for content too, you know. And wow. Okay, how can somebody? I know you've got a course coming up because you teach this stuff. Because I can probably do it. It's going to take me some time, and I'm going to stumble, or I can find somebody like you who's done it and go, okay, what do you got for me? What do you have as far as resources? I know you got like some free media kit lab thing, but you've got this course coming up. How does somebody get a little bit more information and move in your direction?
So you can find me every media platform at Beth Nydick. My website is bethnydick.com. I do have my 5-month program coming up called the Media Spotlight Accelerator. It's right on my website. You can find all the information there. But if for the very least, please go to my website and you can download the Media Spotlight magazine, the workbook issue. It's 10 pages of articles and worksheets to get you and your business ready for media.
That's great. And you keep saying ready for media, and that's really important because you can't go on there and stumble. You've got to be prepared. And I love what you said earlier. Your marketing message and your media message are different. You're going to help people understand that difference and how really simple it is to craft your media message when you understand how to do it. And that's what Beth helps you do.
It totally is. And making sure your business is ready for it. Because I always say this, why are you putting in all this effort if there's no place for those clients to go? So people are going to see me on your podcast, right? And if they go to my website and it doesn't match what I'm talking about, or they go to my social and it doesn't match, that doesn't help me. And if you cannot get my email address, because really that's all we want from everything, get you into my nurture sequence, right? To get you into there, then you're not helping yourself. So I would say, start working on those relationships because it doesn't happen overnight all the time. It does sometimes, but making sure that your business is ready for it is really, really an important piece.
That's great. And we will leave it at that. That's the crescendo. So BethNydick.com, Nydick as in New York, right? N-Y-D-I-C-K, BethNydick.com. Go sign up, look at her stuff. She is just marvelous at what she does, vibrant, and she can really help you understand media, building relationships. And I love how you always say, start small, start in your local market, cut your teeth there, make your mistakes there, and then you will go. If your goal is to get on Good Morning America, for most people, you better set a 3 to 5 year goal, I'm guessing, right? Work it. But it's about relationships and building those centers of influence and putting them first. How can I serve you, Mr. TV producer or Miss TV producer? How can I bring content to you that's important, that's valuable to your audience, and build that relationship? Long term, it's a tremendous credibility marketing strategy that's going to help you, as I say, gain more clients, get more referrals, and grow your revenue. So, Beth Nydick, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. I'm going to hire you as my hype man now. I appreciate you so much.
You're welcome. You take care, and we will definitely stay in touch.
I'll speak to you soon. Thank you. Bye, everybody.